Have you noticed that it's getting harder to focus lately? Maybe reading a book is becoming more difficult than it used to. Or you sit down to do something that you really need to be doing that's quite important, and within a few minutes you find yourself reaching for your phone and then you start scrolling. And before you know it, you've lost a good half hour out of your valuable time. Now, I hear this in my clinic from patients all the time. And I often hear, Dr. Ash, I just feel like my brain isn't working like it used to. Now, this is not uncommon and it's actually happening all over the world. They feel mentally tired, easily distracted, overwhelmed by information, unable to stay focused for long. Students tell me they struggle to concentrate on their studies. Professionals are telling me they're finding it harder to stay engaged with their meetings or when they're needing to do deep, concentrated effort with work. And even everyday things that they find that were relaxing, like watching a film or reading a book, become more difficult and more of a task. Now, many people think there's something wrong with them, but often this is not the case. It's simply the brain just adapting to the environment that it's living in. The human brain evolved in a world that was relatively slow, periods of activity followed by periods of quiet. But the environment we live in today is very different. Our brains are now exposed to constant stimulation, notification, messages, short videos, news updates, and endless scrolling. Every time something appears on the screen, the brain's attention system reacts. Over time, the brain begins to adapt to this pattern. To understand why this is happening, we need to briefly talk about dopamine. Dopamine is often described as the brain's pleasure chemical, but that's not quite accurate. Dopamine is really about anticipation and motivation. It's the signal that tells the brain something interesting might happen. Pay attention. Social media platforms are extremely good at activating this system. Every swipe might reveal something surprising, a funny video, a message, something emotional. Your brain keeps thinking, maybe the next one will be interesting. And this creates a loop that keeps us scrolling. Now, here's where it becomes important for focus. The brain's attention system works best when it can stay sustained with something for a period of time. Reading, studying, problem solving. But when the brain is constantly switching between stimuli every few seconds, it starts to adapt. Instead of sustaining focus, the brain becomes very good at rapid scanning for novelty. So the brain becomes excellent at quick bursts of stimulation, but longer, deeper concentration becomes harder, which is why people say to me, I know what I need to do, I just can't stay focused on it. And again, this isn't a character flaw. It's simply the brain being adapted to being used. In our clinic, we use qEEG brain mapping, which allows us to see patterns of activity across the brain. And in some people who are struggling with attention and mental fatigue, we see the attention networks are working very hard, but not efficiently. Now, if you take a look at this head map here, you'll notice different colours across the brain. The colours simply represent how active different areas of the brain are compared to what we would expect to see in a well-regulated brain. In general, green represents activity that is within a healthy balanced range. Blue can indicate that an area of the brain is producing a little less activity than expected, and yellow, orange or red can suggest that an area of the brain is working harder than it ideally should. So when someone is feeling mentally overloaded or struggling with focus, we might see warmer colours like yellow or orange, particularly in the frontal areas of the brain, just behind the forehead. These areas are involved in attention, planning and mental control. So if they're working harder than they need to, it can feel like the brain is constantly pushing to keep up. It's a bit like an engine that's revving a lot, but not running smoothly. Now, one thing I always reassure patients about is this. Now, it doesn't mean that there's something permanently wrong with the brain. It means that there is patterns of regulation that we can actually improve on. One of the things I often say to patients is that when we actually look at how the brain is functioning, we often also understand why someone feels the way they feel. An encouraging thing is the brain is incredibly adaptable. The same neuroplasticity that allowed these patterns to occur also allows the brain to change. One of the most powerful things for brain health is something that most people try to avoid: boredom. That's moments when your brain is not being constantly stimulated. When you go for a walk, sit quietly, let your mind wander. During these moments, the brain activates something called the default mode network, which is important for creativity, memory processing, and mental recovery. If every spare moment is filled with scrolling, the brain never gets a chance to reset. The good news is that attention can improve. The brain responds to very small changes. Here's some simple suggestions that I suggest. Creating short phone-free blocks of time during the day, even 30 minutes where the brain can focus on one thing. Spending some time in low stimulation environments like walking outdoors, and prioritizing sleep, which is when the brain restores many of its cognitive resources. And perhaps the most important thing is be kind to yourself. Your brain is not broken. It's just simply adapting to the environment that it's living in. Even if we change that environment even slightly, your brain often responds remarkably well. Thanks for watching, and if you're interested in learning more about how the brain works, then please subscribe to this channel and we'll keep you updated with the latest video releases. We'll see you next time on the Healthy Brain Exchange.